Elspeth here from Vegan News Daily, and I'm here with my daughter Caileigh, and we are delighted to share with you today one of the great joys of the kitchen, sprouting. I'm also known as the Speedy Vegan, and as my motto always says, nutritious, delicious, fresh, and fast. And these are indeed just that. Caileigh, why don't you tell us more about sprouts?
Absolutely. So sprouts are young seeds that have actually just germinated. So they're just young, tender greens, only a few days old, and they're very nutrient rich. So the sprouts we're going to teach you how to make today are alfalfa sprouts. Those are my personal favorite, and they're the easiest to make. But you can also sprout things like cabbage, broccoli, peas, clover, lentils, and so much more. So as I mentioned, sprouts are extremely rich in vitamins, minerals, and essential amino acids. These guys pack a strong nutritional punch, even though they're so little. They also help boost digestion, improve blood circulation, and strengthen your immune system, and prevent premature aging. So let's get started. Now we're gonna get sprouting. So you're gonna take 2 to 3 tablespoons of alfalfa seeds, or your seeds of choice. Make sure they're sprouting seeds, and you're just going to place them in a big jar. Get 1 more tablespoon of the seeds in here. I'll do a third because it's quite a big jar. If you're using a smaller jar, you could do 2 tablespoons. And now you're going to pour in some fresh filtered water into the jar, and it's about 2 cups. You just want the seeds to be nicely submerged in the water. And that looks good. About 2 cups. And then you're just going to put a lid. This is a sprouting lid on the jar, or any kind of lid, but we're going to need a sprouting lid later. And you're just going to let the jar sit on your countertop away from direct sunlight for about 8 to 10 hours. So after 8 to 10 hours, you're just going to use the sprouting lid or cheesecloth covering and simply drain the water. I like to shake it up first, and then you're going to drain the water into your sink, ideally. We're going to do it into a bowl today. And this is the benefit of the sprouting lid. So make sure, I like to shake it a few times, and then I like to make sure my seeds are all the way along the edges of my jar and that all the water's out of there. And you're just going to lay your big bell jar on its side at a 45-degree angle facing downwards, and the seeds are just going to rest there, and you're going to repeat this step 2 to 3 times a day with the rinsing.
And after about 5 or 6 days, depending on which seeds you're using, you're going to end up with little sprouts starting to happen. It happens really about, depending on the seeds that you're using, within about 12 hours you start to see little shoots coming out. And each time I do it, I sort of spread the seeds around the side of the jar just so that they have enough space, and you can see some water's already trickled into the bottom. So I just empty that out into the sink. And then after a few days, but first, if you are using those type of lids, the plastic lids, they do come in different sizes. So Caileigh chose the yellow one first, so that has a much smaller hole so that the little seeds won't come out each time. And as the sprouts get larger and larger, you can progress to these larger lids. I love these jars. They just come with one single size lid, and this is what I did, some alfalfa sprouts. So these are about 6 days in, and they are pretty much perfect. So, Caileigh, why don't you tell them what we do once the sprouts are ready?
Absolutely. So, after 4 to 6 days, once your sprouts are ready, you can remove them from the jar. You, of course, want to drain them, and I like to wait around like 5 or 6 hours to make sure it's completely dry, because if you have wet sprouts, it's going to get very soggy when you try to store them. So,
and they'll also kind of, they won't be as fresh. They'll sort of,
go a bit moldy.
Yeah.
So you take the sprouts out of the jar and you just kind of rip them in.
And this was just 3 tablespoons of seed that we used to make these sprouts. And you can see you can grow a whole lot of sprouts. You really feel like, well, I feel like a farmer.
It's plentiful.
Very plentiful.
So I generally probably use 2 plates for this size of sprouts, but you want to evenly distribute them, and you're going to put a paper towel underneath the sprouts so that it absorbs the moisture, or you can put a clean dishcloth. And then I just leave it out for about 30 to 60 minutes. You can put it in direct sunlight for about like 10 minutes max. You don't want to like overdo it with the sun, but that's going to help activate the chlorophyll and make the nice green color in your sprouts. So there's one big plate of sprouts, and then when you're done letting the sprouts dry on this plate, you are going to
put them in the refrigerator to store them. But we use them for all sorts of things. So you can simply do what I do, is just grab a handful and munch them as you go. But typically we put them on top of salads, wraps, sandwiches, and really, really delicious over flatbread as well. So think of different ways to use your sprouts, but we love them just by the handful.
And it's so easy. Enjoy your sprouts, your sandwiches, your wraps, or your salads.
Get growing.